The global financial center of Hong Kong is falling apart. The Chinese military amassed at its borders. Gold, meanwhile, is trading at all-time highs in every country of the world except here in the U.S. We'll get into that on today's American Confidant.
Loading the American Confidant intro.
We have $15 billion in gold in our treasury. We don't own an ounce.
And one of the problems is we don't have the gold. Other places have the gold.
It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
The American Confidant.
Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, The American Confidant, to stay up to date with every episode. And be sure to like, comment, and share. We want to hear from you, the people. Hello and welcome today to the American Confidant. I'm Jim LaFave, and I'm joined as always with Cash. How are you today over there, baby?
Hey, Jim, I'm doing great today. It's an exciting week in the markets.
You know, we've got Rick joining us in the studio, and I want to hear Geneva. What do we got today in the news?
Thank you, Jim. Russian authorities on Tuesday announced the evacuation of the village nearest to the site of the nuclear accident in northern Russia, suggesting dangers were more grave than initially reported. The still mysterious episode last week killed 7 people and released radiation, apparently when a small nuclear reactor malfunctioned during a test of a novel-type missile near a naval weapons testing site. Russian officials have released a flurry of misleading or incomplete statements playing down the severity of the accident, which the military first reported on Thursday as a fire involving a liquid-fueled rocket engine. It was not until Sunday that Russian scientists conceded that the reactor had released radiation during a test on an offshore platform in the White Sea. In Hong Kong, the former British colony has had special status with its own legal system, rights, and freedoms not seen in mainland China. However, many activists believe this is now under threat. Millions of Hong Kong citizens have taken part in 10 weeks of anti-government protests demanding democratic reform and an investigation into alleged police brutality. While many of the demonstrations were peaceful, an increasing number have ended in violent clashes with the police. The latest protest or occupation of the airport led to hundreds of flights being canceled after protesters escalated their actions, though now normal service has been mostly restored. Chase Bank has pulled out of the Canadian credit card market, and the company is taking customers' debt with it. Canadians who had credit cards with Chase are breathing a sigh of relief after the company officials said they would forgive all outstanding debt. Chase closed all credit card accounts in the country in March 2018. Originally, customers were told to continue paying their debt, but on Friday, August 9th, company officials confirmed that the debts were all canceled. The company could have sold the debt to a third party, but officials said it was a better decision for all parties to forgive the debt. Officials declined to say how much debt was forgiven or how many customers were affected. And thanks to you guys, back to you in the studio.
Chase Bank. Okay.
I've never known a bank to leave a country. Never. And even if it did, I've never known them to forgive credit on the way out the door. Have you ever heard of a bank taking it into shorts and just forgiving debts?
Well, have you ever heard, if you were in Canada and Chase split, would you pay their bill?
No.
Maybe they got some kind of a benefit that we don't know about for them forgiving that debt. Did they get any?
It certainly raises a suspicion, doesn't it?
So meanwhile, too, Trump, he's got the tariff hike he put off until after Christmas.
Smart move. I think it was a great move on his part. He's going to keep the retail sector alive because most of these tariff cuts tariffs were going to be imposed on retail goods. As a matter of fact, we've got a number of companies that actually rebounded today. Apple, Best Buy, Target, Gap, L Brands. There's a number of them, and they all Hasbro. These are all retail outlets that were putting pressure on the administration because these tariffs were killing them. It was hurting them very badly. Most of their products are made in China. They needed a break. President Trump gave it to them.
Okay, so no tariffs. That's off until after Christmas. The debt ceiling, there's no debate about that.
We're
That's
not
being
going to talk
increased,
about it.
right?
Not going to hear anything about it.
We're stretching the debt out, and we're kind of cutting off a little revenue. Cash, where's the money going to come from, man?
I think it's going to come from the taxpayer, the American people. You know, Larry Kudlow said something a while back. He said the American people are going to pay this tariff bill. And I think he was right. I think it's going to happen.
You know what I think, Cash? I think that they worked a deal out. I think that they're printing a lot more money than they're talking about. They're just going to keep the old kingdom afloat until they actually give the bill out.
We're sitting on a really in a very precarious situation with a lot of things that crept into the market yesterday that really set the market on its ear, didn't it? We were closed down over 400 points, barely recovered today. 1,000-point loss last week, 900-point loss the week before. We're seeing volatility just like we saw in 2008 all over again.
But we're so used to it.
We've become numb.
How could Americans watch the Dow puke out 1,150 points, right? Or last year on Christmas Eve?
It blows my mind.
And not freak out.
Jim, I don't have a penny in the market and refuse to keep it that way. I will not put my money in the market. I don't trust it. I like solid assets, and you know that, Jim. I hold a lot of gold, and I'm going to continue to do that. Silver's starting to make some exciting moves.
It sure is.
So I think we're even going to see some impact from silver.
Okay, so what's going on here?
Well, we've got other things that are disturbing the market, don't we? We've got Hong Kong is on the horizon. Hong Kong has been a mess. We haven't even talked about that.
Well, that's what I was saying about the Chinese. They're moving in. They don't own the banks in Hong Kong, do they?
No.
They took the whole territory over back, 16 years ago?
Yes.
Okay. But the banks have been operating freely.
That's right.
That's why the Chinese military is about to stop that. What are the repercussions going to be globally from this, Cash, when that sucker goes down?
I think, Jim, we are being set up for a perfect storm. We've got the Chinese military about to storm the island of Hong Kong to put these protesters to rest. This could be another Tiananmen Square.
Well, I saw the American flags being waved in the airport today. That was terrible scenes there. I mean, that was
really want to
carnage
piss
going on.
off the Chinese government, have
That's
them
right.
wave American
That's
flags in one of their territories. This Hong Kong is Chinese territory, and they've reached out, asked the President Trump for help, haven't they?
They sure have. And what did Trump say?
But that's between Hong Kong and that's between China, because Hong Kong is a part of China. They'll have to deal with that themselves. They don't need advice.
Well, he said it's a Chinese affair. We're not gonna do anything, Jim. This isn't Venezuela. This is a totally different, independent superpower. And they're going to handle their own business.
There you go. What do you got? You got
something?
something?
Yeah, I do. I have a quick headline for you, Jim. Argentina experienced yesterday a near complete meltdown of their stock market.
I saw that a hedge fund that's heavily invested in Argentina just lost $715 billion.
Historically, actions that happen in Argentina have affected the United States. This is something we haven't talked about, but this is another one of those little mini bubbles that could pop and set everything upside down.
All right, Rick, you're on top of the currents. You're big on some world events happening. I know you think Brexit is going to hit. What's happening with Trump and tariffs? How is that affecting what's happening there?
Well, right now, we have to really take into consideration that today no one really expected the president to pull back and postpone the tariffs till December.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Now, this was a Merry Christmas gift to Wall Street, but it's just a Band-Aid. At the end of the day, it didn't really make the markets come back. I mean, if we look at what the Dow did today, it closed at 26,729. It was only up 372 points. Well, yesterday it came down over 350 points. So did it really recover? The answer is no. But Wall Street wants to give you the impression that everything is going to be just fine. The problem is that we're looking at the geopolitical tensions right now that are alarming. You have Boris Johnson, which is going in with a hard Brexit. That means he's going to exit the European Union regardless whether there is a deal or no deal. And that's going to cause a major ripple effect and domino effect in the financial markets because the UK, or in this case England, will no longer be the financial center that it used to.
Oh, what? Excuse me.
Well, they've already lost. They've lost their London Bullion Exchange. That's gone over to Shanghai.
It has.
They've lost Prince Andrew. He's on the Epstein list.
That's right. And, when they lost Hong Kong, that was a big blow to them financially.
That's right.
They really didn't want to give up Hong Kong, and they made a big spat about it. So now you've got the Chinese, which have, for many, many years, have been trying to gain control of Hong Kong and have waited for the opportunity like they have now.
That's what. Do you think that they could have created these riots?
I wouldn't put it past them.
Right?
We've seen China is rising as a superpower. They're stocking up on their gold. They, along with Russia, are very much in position to put the screws to the United States. If they started selling their treasury bonds, that's the nuclear assault.
Exactly. And now we have something even more dangerous happening. We have hedge funds going all in on gold. And why are they doing that? Because they're afraid of rate reductions from central banks.
That's right.
Currency devaluations at their highest point, which means currency wars. These currency wars right now that had just begun, they've always been there. Bottom line is that, people just don't understand that the Chinese have been trying to position their currency against our dollar for over 10 years. And now they have control of that to some degree. Now, the Fed is not helping right now because the Fed isn't reacting fast enough to defend the U.S. dollar.
Rick, tell us about this, the yields on the debt. I mean, the one thing is they can increase this debt. They got the ceiling going up. So meanwhile, they got to sell the debt. And what's going on there with the yields on these?
Well, it's interesting that right now we're at a 3-year low on treasuries. They're not yielding anything. And we haven't seen this for a long time. And this is also due to the yield curve, which is inverted right now. So what we're seeing is we're starting to see a devaluation and fear. This fear factor is the same thing that we saw back in 2008 before the market crash. We had a mortgage bubble. We had the yield curve, which was inverted. Treasuries were down. Why? Because no one really didn't want to buy our debt because they weren't making any money on it.
Think about it. You
Right?
stop paying the debt. What happens? You lose the asset. The asset goes directly to Wall Street. It still has value. Plus, they've made interest all along. They don't lose.
Exactly.
Wall Street will never lose. And that's the thing that bewilders me about the Chase Bank is forgiving debt in Canada. That's almost unheard of. I've never heard of a bank forgiving debt.
So, Chase, we talked about that. They get out. They come here because they have fertile ground here with the orderly liquidation
they'll more
authority,
than make
right?
up for their losses.
Well, now we understand why today, when, the president gave Wall Street a Merry Christmas gift, didn't have a negative impact on gold, because gold, as soon as that news hit, pulled back to $14.95, and then guess what happened? It came right back up.
That's
to
right.
$15.15, and that was a birdie right back at Wall Street.
Well, I can.
Well, that was profit taking, Rick. That they took profit. Wall Street took profit to settle some scores. I mean, maybe pay off some losses.
What do you mean? Was
prop
that
the
all it
market
was?
back up.
Because I read the headline, Gold's day is over. And it
Gold's
was
day is
crashing.
just beginning.
Yeah, it went down $2, right?
Something we've talked about. We've talked about the Basel III Accord, which made gold literally put it on par with dollars.
That's
Exactly.
right.
So it's
Tier
no
one,
longer
baby.
valued by banks at 50% of its weighted value. It's now 1-to-1 with the dollar.
We talked about the falling industrial sector, the transportation sector, the trucking industry's falling. We
Automotive
talked,
sector.
all-time high. Meanwhile, focus on the stock market, the Dow. Meanwhile, the rains that have hit.
97% of farmers still don't have their crops in the
Bloomberg came out saying that farmers are getting hit by the trade war, 3.5 billion losses in corn.
The interesting thing, Rick, only 10% of the crop planted this year, the corn and soy. And if you look at if there's a great time to raise tariffs, it's when
This
you've
would
got
be the
only
moment.
10% of the crop put in the ground. That'll
The
work out,
disadvantage is that food will rot in the
right?
warehouses.
That's it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, the budget.
At least without a trade war, there would be buyers for the for the back stock. But right now, there's no buyers.
So food really can't be weaponized, can it? At this point,
It probably can.
They are weaponizing it against us because they're not buying our farming products.
Something nobody's talking about. What about the cost of our own goods, our own farm goods here in America? But you've got all these crops that are rotting in the warehouses. And beyond that, you've got crops that aren't being able to be planted.
Wait a minute. All
What's
of a
gonna happen
sudden,
to
I'm
us?
hearing about pretend meat a lot, aren't you, Cash?
We sure are.
right.
Aren't we?
Yes.
Aren't we? They're actually pushing it. Wendy's restaurants, they're doing this stuff.
Yeah.
Some of these fast food places are actually, wow.
Yeah.
There you go, right?
They're veganizing meat.
You got to do something with the soy. Well, guys, that's a lot of good stuff. Rick, you got anything you want to throw in here? Any closing thoughts?
Well, people have to realize that right now it may seem like the stock market may recover, but in reality, we're seeing the transition into a recession. All other emerging economies are starting to enter into a recession. And we're about to see something even bigger unfold, because if Hong Kong goes down.
Oh, it will. That's
and
amazing.
If Hong Kong goes down, you're going to see a domino effect of the worst kind, because Hong Kong has always been known as a major financial, footing in Asia.
And we've got Brexit happening, and London, of course, is the center of all banking. Rick, ironically, something we haven't talked about is gold right now is at an all-time high in 73 countries around the world, including Great Britain. Record high for gold prices.
Which means that they're pricing it even higher than $1,900 an ounce, which is what was our all-time high back in 2011.
Guys, I'm no mathematician, but all of a sudden it just dinged. If gold is trading at all-time highs through the rest of the civilized world, pretty much, right?
Yes.
And our gold time high was 1,900, right? Something like that. Doesn't that mean that we're going to pretty much capture that?
Well, here's an interesting thought. Not only is gold at an all-time high with the dollar at an all-time high, but imagine what's going to happen when the dollar pulls back.
Yeah.
We are going to see gold elevate to levels we've never seen.
Oh, I like
Thank you
silver.
for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because people really, there's a lot of chatter in the trading rooms right now. And really what they're saying is that the reason why hedge funds are moving into gold is because they know that the Federal Reserve has to do another rate cut. It will devalue the dollar, and which is what the president wanted to do anyway, because it's too high. It's at 97. He wants to bring it to 84.
Yes.
People need to get ahead of this, because
Lord.
gold is going to continue to climb. More than likely, it'll run between now and a year from now to $2,500 an ounce. It's trading at $1,500. They can pick up an additional 60% in growth and appreciation if they do it now.
All right,
Yes,
guys.
right away.
Thanks a lot for joining us, Rick. Thanks for the updates. Hey, it was nice having you in here.
Thank you.
Cash, you handsome rogue. You.
Well, thank you.
All right,
man.
you stay healthy. Geneva, thanks a lot. And thanks also for the new relationship we have with the Epic Times, a great publication. They appear weekly in most cities. The big cities, you'll see a daily. And they cover Donald Trump like he's never been covered before. I recommend it. EPOCH, Epic Times. And again, on behalf of myself and everyone here at the American Confidant, we'll be back. Canada, you can take chase and keep them, baby. The Chinese are coming after.
GSI Exchange, a leading precious metals dealer helping to protect your retirement accounts and delivering precious metals straight to your door. Contact GSI Exchange at 800-474-9159 or visit them on the web at gsiexchange.com.